How good is this microphone? I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet and give you 6 pros and 4 cons of the Rode Podmic, the $100 broadcast dynamic microphone aimed at podcasters and content creators on a budget. I've done a couple comparisons between the Rode Podmic and some of its competitors, and while it's never been my favorite microphone in terms of how it sounds for me, it still does have a lot of great qualities that recommend it for podcasters, content creators who are looking for a broadcast dynamic mic and don't want to break the bank. I'm recording this video obviously with the Podmic running through the Cloudlifter CL1 and into the Rodecaster Pro, and I do have audio processing enabled currently, just the generic settings, and I've got everything enabled except for the noise gate. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the processing so you can hear how the mic sounds without any of that. So this is just the raw microphone without any post-processing applied to it. I'll just have boosted the levels a bit to make them loud enough for you to hear. And I am using the Cloudlifter, but it's not 100% necessary to use the Cloudlifter or other similar mic activator with the Rode Podmic. Of course, that's going to depend on how loud you are, as well as the quality of your audio interface and just how much gain it can give to a microphone without raising the noise floor too much. I've also done an entire video about whether it is necessary to use a mic activator with the Rode Podmic, so if you want to hear about that in more detail, feel free to check that video out. So let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons and start with the pros. Number 1 pro is the price. There aren't really any other direct competitors at this price point for a broadcast dynamic microphone. There are a lot of dynamic microphones at $100 and under. They tend to be stage mics, handheld microphones that you can use for this application. But if you are specifically looking for a broadcast type dynamic microphone, especially something with a yoke that's very easy to position, there's just really not very many other options at this price point. Number 2 are the looks. I've started seeing the Podmic pop up on a lot of YouTubers' channels nowadays, even some who I would suspect could afford a much more expensive microphone than the Podmic, which leads me to believe they're choosing it based on the way it looks. Number 3 is the small size. Some microphones can be obnoxiously large, so I do appreciate how small and adorable the Podmic is, not taking up a whole lot of space, not being like super long and obnoxious. Number 4 is the build quality. It's amazingly good, and I could easily see this microphone costing 4 or 5 times as much with the build quality that it has. Number 5 is that it has pretty decent plosive performance, especially in comparison to the microphones that I've compared it to, compared like the Audio-Technica AT2020 and the Shure MV7, where it's significantly better than those microphones, although it's not great. And number 6 is that it is pretty loud for a dynamic microphone, which is why you don't necessarily need a mic activator like the Cloudlifter, again, depending on your audio interface and really how loud you are or how close you are to the microphone. I got a text message. So let's go ahead and get into the cons. The number 1 is the audio quality, which for me isn't my favorite, but again, I have heard other YouTubers use this mic and make it sound fantastic. So it all depends on your voice, and it also might depend on your ability to EQ microphones and do some post-processing to make them sound how you want to. I'm not great at that, so for me, this microphone just doesn't sound as good as some others right out of the box. Number 2 are the plosives. Now, this is kind of contradictory because I did praise the plosive performance, but that was really only in comparison to some mics that are really bad at plosives, which means that this microphone is better than them, but still not great. So I would absolutely recommend that you do get a pop filter or a windscreen with this microphone, or just be very cognizant of how you address it and just use good mic and voice technique. Number 3 is it's not that great at off-axis rejection, which means that it does tend to pick up sounds from different angles more so than other dynamic microphones. It's not super great at rejecting noise on your desk, so if you are a gamer or you just like to type and talk for some reason, it will pick up that noise a little bit more than other dynamic microphones. And the number 4 con is it doesn't reject handling noise super well either, so if you do accidentally bump it, or if you bump your desk a lot, or hit the mic stand or something, it does pick up that noise pretty loudly. Those are the kinds of things that more expensive mics will excel at, and that's how you can kind of differentiate more expensive mics from cheaper mics. That's it. Those are my 6 pros and 4 cons of the Rode Podmic. Hopefully that's helpful if you're looking at this microphone. I wanted to give you my impressions of it after using it for a few months now and even comparing it with, I guess, about 3 different microphones. It's definitely a unique microphone, and as I said before, it doesn't have a lot of direct competition in this form factor at this price point. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a like and maybe subscribe as well. That would be really itchy. Anyway, appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.